Alex McCadden, journalist and writer from LaGrande, Oregon. Thanks for joining me on the Magic for Us podcast as I talk with writers about the magic of bringing words to life. This show is available wherever you get your podcasts and streaming exclusively on EOLF TV. Grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join the conversation. My guest on the first episode of Magic for Us is author Wayne Kramer. I met Wayne a little while back when I started beta reading a few of his manuscripts. If you don't know, beta reading is when an author hands over the drafts of their work to readers they trust for feedback to get their books ready to publish. Wayne published his debut novel, Heroes of Time Legends, Murdoch's Choice, in August of this year. I was blown away at the unique magic system and holistic world building Wayne was able to craft into his work. I could speak for hours about how much I look forward to the next entry in the series, but I'm not a published author yet, so I'll let Wayne speak for himself. All right, so first off, Wayne, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your biography, what you do.
Yeah, hey Alex. So yeah, my name's Wayne Kramer, Wayne D. Kramer. I have just published my first book, Heroes of Time Legends, Murdoch's Choice. It's the start of a new fantasy series, the Heroes of Time series, and very excited about that. It's me, my background. Well, I've been in business my whole life. Honestly, I've always wanted to be a writer, and I've been writing things since I was just a kid, middle school, high school. I would write short stories. I would enter young authors contest. I would just write things for fun. And for many, many years, I actually, spent a long time being very serious about doing a novelization and wanting to publish a novelization of a popular video game called Chrono Trigger. And so I spent a long time doing that. And eventually I decided, I really, I wanted to write Chrono Trigger, but what I knew I really wanted was to write my own fantasy series. It was just something that was itching inside. That itch needed to be scratched. And I started thinking of all these different elements for Heroes of Time and building that world. And I started writing one book, actually not the one that I published. The other one I wrote was called The First Ethereal, and it's actually in like beta reading and other more private distribution right now. And then I wrote and self-published the book Murdoch's Choice, and here I am. That happened about 3 months ago, and it's been an interesting ride.
Awesome. Well, anybody hasn't heard of Legends of Time, right?
Heroes of Time.
Heroes of Time Legends, Murdoch's Choice.
Right.
I beta read that book. I have a nice, lovely signed copy on my shelf. You haven't heard of it? Please go read it. Wayne, you did an excellent job. So can you tell us more about the book, including the plot and the intended audience?
It's a fantasy. The whole series is a fantasy series, and overall, I would consider it to be an epic fantasy series. This first book, Murdoch's Choice, is one entry point into the series, and the other book that I mentioned will actually be another entry point into the series. This one is a kind of a fast-paced, seafaring, action adventure story in this fantasy world of Elioran. So it's a different world entirely. You've got a ringed planet, different lands, different peoples, different races, and this story, it revolves around the kind of a treasure hunting theme, going after the mythical Grimstone, which is an object that ends up having a connection to Captain Murdoch's history and his past. And he, at first, the object is associated with times past that people believe don't even exist. So they believe this object is mythical. You're wasting your time going after it. But circumstances occur that persuade him that he does need to go after it. And so he does. And his family, his daughter particularly, gets pulled into it. She hates the sea because her father was always a seafaring merchant and he was away all the time. So we've got these different dynamics going. She hates the sea, but she's in love with the crewman of his ship. And so the adventure just kind of takes off, and it revolves a lot around character building, right? I like to take time to make interesting characters and to build them and to get people to get to know those characters. And then insert them into an interesting plot. And I felt like that went pretty well here. We have this kind of this crew of eccentric and funny and interesting people, of all different walks, and there's a lot of whimsical moments. There's humor. There's mystery. There's action. There's a lot of fight scenes. It's just an all-around fun romp that I think people have been enjoying so far. From the comments I see, people have been enjoying it. So that's definitely gratifying to see, and it's a lot of fun for me to do that.
That's good. Yeah, I know. Some of my favorites. I've been reading the characters that you put in there. Boomer the Red Panda, I thought was just excellent. I was a big fan of that guy.
Yeah.
The other characters in the first Ethereals. So you've done a really good job, writing characters that people can fall in love with. What authors or books have influenced you most as a writer?
Yeah, I mean, you certainly have your quintessential fantasy writers, right? So J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, some of those big names. Patrick Rothfuss, I've been a fan of his work. Brandon Sanderson, those are all influences, of course. Some other ones that interest me. Brian Jakes and his Redwall series. I definitely have taken some inspiration from that over the years. Read that as a kid and read it more again as an adult. And there's another indie author I've enjoyed lately named J.M.D. Reed. And his Jewels of Illumination series. It's kind of been interesting. So, it's an eclectic mix. But I tend to stay in that fantasy genre, sometimes sci-fi, like John Scalzi. I really enjoyed his stuff. Old Man's War. All those kinds of things. Fantasy, sci-fi. I tend to read a lot of fantasy.
What inspires the themes in your works that you've written so far?
What inspires the themes? So, there's a lot of things. Of course, again, the books that I've read can definitely play into that. Other things in my life, with Murdoch's Choice in particular, some of the characters, and I typically do not do this, but some of the characters in this book are actually based on real people that are or have been in my life. So Captain Murdoch in particular is based directly on an old friend, colleague, family member, named Daniel Skip Person, and he passed away about 3 years ago of a horrible lung disease. But even before he passed away, he and I had actually brainstormed together how we might fit a character based on him into my series. And even back then, at the time, I was actually starting to work on and plot out the Heroes of Time series. And I thought, Skip, he was just a funny, interesting guy. He could be charming on one hand and then really gruff on the other, gruff and coarse and all that on the other end. It was a really pleasant and fun individual, and he was very cerebral, right? He had all these terms that he would come out with, serendipitous, and these just different words he would just throw out there in his regular line of speaking, and he was funny. He would make up names for people. He would make up nicknames for people. So these names, Fump and Chim Chum and Wiggle Belly and all these are based on actual nicknames that he had for different people that he knew in life here. So there's a lot of inspiration from that. And then just other general world building things. I've traveled a lot. I've traveled around the world to many different countries. And, I get some inspirations from that, particularly I think in when I'm building scenery, I tend, I think of this really nice European setting that maybe I've been to, or someplace in Japan, or different things like that. Just seeing cool places in real life can really inspire a lot.
What is some of the most memorable feedback you've gotten from readers so far?
Yeah, so, first and foremost, you always love it just to see anybody enjoy your work. And I would say that some of the most memorable I've seen, just from my experience in Murdoch's Choice after having it come out, is there have been people that have come to me and said, I don't even hardly read. I almost never even read books, but I could hardly put this one down. He's like, and so to see it actually take somebody who's not much of a reader and then make them interested in reading, that's pretty gratifying on multiple levels. So I would say that's probably the most memorable that comes to mind. Anytime you see somebody react to the various emotional beats that you've put in through the novel, or anytime you've set something up that you hope people will catch, and then they do, and the reaction is pretty much what you'd hoped. That's always gratifying. So, yeah, I'd say that's pretty much it right there.
Next up, do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
Yeah, I mean, you got to stick with it if you want to do it. It's you have to be consistent, and you have to be deliberate. And even if you're self-publishing, it's not easy. But if you're determined to do something, and it's just in you that you got to do it, you need to write that story, you want to put out that story, you just have to do it. And like me, like I've been in the business world, and I have a career, up to now, even outside of writing, and that can take all your time, right? I mean, that eats up your time in your life. But when you find eventually that once something has pulled at you long enough, and if you're passionate about it, you find a way to make it work. And I think that's kind of the true gut test, right? If it just won't let you go, then you need to do it and stick with it.
Alrighty, next up, time for our famous lightning round. First off, who is your favorite author?
Ooh, boy. Well, some of the ones I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna go with Tolkien. We'll go safe there.
He is the master. But what is your favorite book?
Favorite book. Right now, this always changes over time, but you know what? I actually had a crazy enjoyable time reading Stephen King's 11/22/63. The ending was not as satisfying for me, but I could not put that down, and it was a big book. And I liked that one a lot, so I'll just go ahead and put that one on.
Alrighty. What is your favorite place to write?
I would say a coffee shop.
Alrighty. And what is your favorite way to write? By hand, by tablet, laptop, something else?
By laptop. I do by laptop. I'm a little bit old school on my software. I'm an late adapter when it comes to some of the newer stuff. I still like to use Windows 7. I still prefer Windows 7. And some of the somewhat older Word programs like 2010 and 2016. But yeah, I use Word on a laptop.
Nice. We can't knock Windows 7 too much. It was a pretty solid operating system.
Yeah, it is.
Last off, what is your favorite thing to binge on, snacks or beverages, when you're writing?
Ooh. So beverage-wise, I love this. I get this mocha, and apparently I'm the only one at this coffee shop locally that orders it this way. It's and every time I go in, they already know what I want, so they start making it for me. It's called a crisscross. It's a mocha with it's a shot of dark chocolate and a shot of white chocolate, and with coconut milk. And if I'm not at this particular coffee shop, like Starbucks, I like the white chocolate mocha with coconut milk. Hard to beat.
Do you have any final thoughts? And can you tell our viewers where they can get a copy of your first book?
Yeah, so my book is available, of course, on Amazon and all the major online retailers. And my website is heroesoftime.com. And all the retail links are there. And also, we keep our own inventory of books. So if you want a signed copy, or in some cases, if you want it even faster, buy it from me, from my website, heroesoftime.com/shop. And we can get you there. It's also got all the retail links for the audiobook and the ebook. So we have all those formats out there: audiobook, ebook, paperback, and hardcover.
Special thanks to Wayne for being my first guest on the Magic for Us show. This show is available wherever you get your podcasts and streaming exclusively on EOA Live TV, your connection to Eastern Oregon. You can catch this show in video form under the EOA Reads programming block on the EOA Live TV Roku app. For more information about the podcast and how to learn more about Wayne's work, visit me online at www.magic4.us. If you're an author and want to appear on the show, visit my website for contact info. Stay magical, friends.